Hello everyone. So for today's video, we are going to explore bias and understand how are we going to embrace reflexivity and learn more about our positionality and situationality in a qualitative research. As a researcher, it is imperative that we discuss this concept because this shape our understanding and interpretations of data. Bias and reflexivity are not hurdles to overcome, but rather lenses to understand. So, as you listen today, I want you to reflect on these questions. How does your own positionality shape your research? What biases might you bring to the table, and how can reflexivity help you address them? Before we start, I want you to consider these words by Susan Krieger. The pot carries its maker's thoughts, feelings, and spirit. To overlook this fact is to miss a crucial truth, whether in clay story or science. So, this quotation is a metaphor for our work. Our research carries our imprint. It is infused with our own perspective, biases, and beliefs. So, recognizing this is, of course, not a weakness, but a step towards a more authentic and conscious research endeavor. So, by the end of this presentation, you should be able to distinguish between bias, positionality, and reflexivity, understand their implication in our research, and apply reflexivity in a manner that it enhances the quality and credibility of our qualitative inquiries. So, I'd like to address some common misconceptions surrounding reflexivity and bias. So, this misconception can hinder the depth and rigor of our studies if not rectified. So, first, the key in dealing with bias is not always outright elimination but awareness. Qualitative researchers aim to be reflexive about their biases, seeking to understand and articulate them to the readers rather than trying to eliminate them altogether. So, this openness about bias enhances the transparency and integrity of the research process. Second, we often hear that positionality pertains solely to one demographic characteristic. This is a limited view. Positionality encompasses not just our demographics, but also our experiences, backgrounds, and social political contexts that have shaped our perspective. Third, another misconception is that reflexivity is a one time activity. Reflexivity is an iterative process. As a researcher, we must consistently re examine our biases, assumptions, and interactions throughout the entirety of the research process. Fourth, many also believe that reflexivity is purely an introspective act confined to individual contemplations. So while introspection is a component, reflexivity extends beyond that. It encompasses how our interactions with the participants, the data, and the broader research environment influence our findings. So, collaborative dialogues with peers and mentors can obviously enhance our reflexivity. Lastly, there's a belief that merely recognizing and declaring one's positionality equates to reflexivity. Again, however, acknowledgement is just the starting point. True reflexivity involves actively engaging with and understanding the potential impacts of our positionality and situationality on our research. So, what is bias in a qualitative research? So, biases manifest differently across methodologies. In qualitative research, the intention is often to measure and predict, seeking generalizability through statistical analysis. So the objective is to minimize bias as much as possible to ensure that the findings are reliable and can be extrapolated to a larger population. However, in a qualitative research, the goal shifts to seeking meaning and understanding the nuances of human experience. Here, the researcher bias refers to the inclination to select, interpret, or communicate data in ways that may align with personal beliefs, theoretical perspective, or objective. Biases can infiltrate any phase of the qualitative research process, from the research design to participant selections, from data collections to analysis, and through the reporting phase. Rather than pursuing the elimination of bias, which is an unattainable goal given the inherent nature of personal perspective, the task is to understand how one's viewpoint might color the research process. The way we can embrace bias is to be aware of our positionality and situationality in the research process. So, what do we mean by positionality? Positionality refers to the various facets, such as the gender, class, race, age, sexuality, ethnicity, language, culture, and personal history, position a researcher within a specific context. So, our positionality implies that personal and social identities are not separate from our research endeavor, but intimately connected to them. That our researchers' view, values, and beliefs are not mere background noise, but this actively shape the research process. The interpretation of data, the question we ask, and the problem we choose to address are all influenced by our positionality. Does our positionality changes? The answer is yes. Positionality is not a static concept, but a dynamic one that evolves with our experiences and as our research progresses. It demands continuous reflections and adjustment to maintain ethical integrity and research validity. But what about positionality? Is it the same with situationality? While positionality refers to the stance of the researcher in relation to the social, physical, cultural, and political context, it is the researcher's background. Situationality, on the other hand, is the condition, context, and interaction in the research environment. It involves understanding the interactions within the research setting. These include the relationship between the researcher and the participants, the interactions among participants, and even the dialogue between the research question and the context it's being asked in. Situationality recognizes that research situational factors, such as the location, the time, and the social dynamics, can significantly affect the research outcome. Both positionality and situationality require researchers to be methodologically flexible, adapting their strategies and approaches based on reflexivity and contextual awareness. But what is reflexivity? Reflexivity is a continuous process by which researchers remain acutely aware of their context and the power dynamics within the research environment. It involves a keen awareness of how a researcher's preconceptions, shaped by past experiences and beliefs, can influence and evolve throughout the research process. So, by engaging in reflexivity, researchers are able to critically assess how their theoretical orientations, the chosen methodologies, and the scholarly literature can shape the research journey and its outcome. So, this process of reflection and self examination is essential for ensuring that the research conducted is transparent, ethical, and conducted with rigor. So, when to initiate reflexivity? Reflexivity is an iterative process that demands initiations at the very outset of the research design. It is here that researcher must begin to introspect on their biases, potential influences, and the power dynamics of play within their study. Why is early implementations important? Engaging with reflexivity from the start fortifies our research design against unexamined subjectivities that could skew data interpretation. It sets the stage for a study that is not only aware of the researcher's influence, but also actively examines and accounts for it. However, it's not sufficient to simply start early. Reflexivity must be a continuous thread woven throughout the research process. This ongoing reflection is necessary to navigate the evolving complexities and ethical consideration that emerge at each phase of research. So, who bears the responsibility for this critical reflexivity? Typically, the primary researcher or the lead author of the study takes on the responsibility of writing the reflexivity statement. So, however, this does not preclude contributions from the co-researcher or participants, especially in participatory research model. Each member of the research team, including the advisors, supervisors, where applicable, has a role to play in reflexivity. This may involve providing insights into the research process, helping identify potential biases, and ensuring that various perspectives are considered. In team based research, collaborative reflexivity involves collective discussions where team members critically evaluate each other's contributions and the research process. So, this can enhance the depth and the breadth of the reflexivity statement by incorporating diverse viewpoints. So again, the process of reflexivity should be documented throughout the research process, not just as an end of the study reflection. So this is an ongoing documentation that can provide a more nuanced and dynamic understanding of the research journey. So let's us unpack again the elements that constitute a robust reflexivity statement in qualitative research. I encourage you to write both personal and methodological reflexivity. So, what do we mean by personal reflexivity? So, this involves the researcher's self scrutiny of their own backgrounds, beliefs, and biases. It's about understanding how one's identity, experiences, and personal values may affect the research process and interpretations of finding. So Berger 2015 suggests that acknowledging one positionality can mitigate the risk of unconscious biases affecting the research. It implies that researchers should engage in ongoing self-examination regarding their position relative to their subject of study. So this involves being mindful of how their personal background, perspective, biases could influence the research process. Again, from data collections to analysis and reporting. What about methodological reflexivity? Here we consider how choices in methodology are influenced by the researcher's perspective and how the methodology in turn influence the research outcome. So this includes the selection of methods, the framing of questions, and the analysis of the data. So Pillow argues qualitative research is not a linear process that leads to neat, conclusive endpoint. Instead, it often involves navigating through messy reality that can be uncomfortable and do not always lead to clear-cut successful outcome. So the reality is that the process of engaged qualitative research often leaves researcher in the midst of unresolved issues and complex social dynamics. So these situations may not be comfortable, but they are rich with insight and learning opportunities. So we will end this module with intended actions because learning is by doing. For your actions in this module, our focus will be on two main aspects, reflective writing and collaborative reflexivity. In reflective writing, I encourage you to begin by introspecting your own biases and positionality. Ask yourself how this may influence the various aspects of your research, from your questions to your conclusions. Take a close look at your current research paper or study and ask yourself, what assumptions have you made? Reflect on how this could shape your research outcome and articulate these insights into a reflexivity statement. This should be a clear, honest declarations where you map out your personal context and its potential impact on your research. And after that, um, collaborative reflexivity. I encourage you to pair up with a classmates because we know the journey of reflexivity is um, not to be solitary. So pair up with your classmate, and this she or he will be your reflexivity partner. Share and discuss the reflexivity aspect of your study. So this includes your study's introduction, your research objective, and the reflexivity statement you've crafted. So engage in a constructive exchange, provide thoughtful feedback on your partner's reflexivity approach, and be open to the insights they offers and yours. So by participating in these exercises, we not only become more aware of our research lens, but also enrich our understanding through collaborative insights. So this not only strengthens the credibility of our research, but also contributes to a more nuanced and comprehensive analysis. Thank you so much for listening in this presentations, and I do hope that it help you in your research process.